let's do some website content analysis for Shopify Plus. So there are kind of three critical things that are happening here. The first is a focus on high-level benefits and points of difference. So things that distinguish Shopify Plus from competing e-commerce providers. So we see Shopify Plus is affordable, flexible, and fast. That's one of the main things that's being communicated front and center at the beginning of their homepage. In contrast, they're explaining that legacy software, the alternative, essentially what you're using now, what the target customers are using now, is expensive, it's inflexible, and it's slow. Okay, so these are the high-level benefits and points of difference. And then what they get into is the more functional benefits and the details, so things like the product features. And these are categorized into essentially three different sections. So you can see that Shopify likes to communicate things in sets of three. And this is a very effective tool in content marketing. You see this all the time, where if you want people to remember things, you often put them into groups of three. We've seen this even since ancient times. There was a tendency to move things towards sets of three. Even when it's not even necessary, like you're kind of forcing yourself to create a third thing. So what are these functional categories? They're sell everywhere, manage complexity, and integrate systems. So there's three clusters of functional benefits and features that help organize all of that content. And we see that the bulk of the content is actually focused here in this area, not the high-level benefits, even though that is kind of a myth in marketing that most of your communication needs to talk about high-level benefits. Often that's not true. And one of the reasons it's not true, among many, is that people going to your website often are already aware of the high-level benefits. What they need to know is where the rubber hits the road. They need to understand the details. They need you to address objections. They need you to provide more detailed information. Okay. And then what they're trying to do is push you into the outcome that they want, which is migration. They want you to migrate from your existing system, your legacy software, to theirs. And they go into a lot of detail about that. There's a lot of convincing that happens to push you to this outcome of software migration. Now, one of the things that Shopify Plus is doing throughout their website is they are arguing their points of difference, why they are different from legacy software, why they are different from competitors. However, depending on whether you're selling a strategic business-to-business purchase or a non-strategic one, that will have an impact on whether you should highlight points of difference or not. The problem is that most business-to-business marketers assume that they're selling a strategic purchase. Or they don't even know the question needs to be asked, so they simply default to the marketing that is appropriate for strategic purchases. Now, what is a strategic purchase? A strategic purchase is when your product helps your business-to-business customer differentiate their product to their customers. So in other words, your product makes a difference to their customers. And in this case, Shopify Plus is a significant strategic purchase because that is the online e-commerce experience that the e-commerce seller has with the customers. But tons of business-to-business products out there are not strategic purchases. In other words, they do not play a role in differentiating the customer, the person that's buying your business-to-business product. So things like this would be things like if you're selling oil, if you're selling ball bearings, if you're selling accounting software, if you're selling some sort of back-end tactical automations, things that are not experienced by their customers. These are non-strategic purchases, and in cases like that, you actually do not want to emphasize points of difference because they're irrelevant. But in Shopify Plus's case, there is a consistent message of this is why we're different. And what is that message? It's their general argument, which is that Shopify Plus is agile. Okay, now agility implies a variety of different things. One is moving quickly. The other is to be able to implement things in a cheap way, basically to be able to pivot, at the turn of a dime. So we see this throughout the entire website. They're trying to make this argument that Shopify is agile. So even when you click the call to action to have a conversation with the sales team, they continue to press this. So they're saying move fast, launch even faster. Speed. It's all about speed. It's all about startup mentality, even though you're a large brand. And they even use this testimonial to reiterate, to prove that point. So speed and agility aren't words that typically describe enterprise companies. Okay, so that's already teeing up why Shopify Plus is different. Difference matters here. Shopify Plus enables us to move fast, add enhancements, and operate more like a startup. And then we have the credibility coming from somebody in the e-commerce space. So this central argument, we see it diffused throughout the entire website, and throughout all of the copy, there is this tilting towards agility, to speed. And it shows up everywhere. So for example, in the migrate section, we have battle ready in 90 days or less. Okay, you're going to be able to launch quickly. Integrate in minutes. Innovate forever. So all about speed. And this message it's showing up in paragraphs, it's showing up in headlines, it's showing up in each of these sections. It is a central theme of the content of the website. Now, one way that you can really improve your business-to-business content writing is by using proof, using very specific examples, specific numbers, specific case studies. Because often a mistake that business-to-business people use is they talk about a high-level benefit, but they don't really give the specifics. They don't prove that they can actually deliver that promise. So here, what Shopify Plus is doing is they're saying, Heinz launched in 7 days through Shopify Plus partners. Okay? Very tangible, very specific. We're leveraging a credible brand to prove the point that Shopify is agile, to prove the point that Shopify is different in a meaningful way. Now, again, depending on your case, you may or may not want to focus on that point of difference throughout your website. And we see that they're also talking about partners. Why are they talking about partners? Because this is, we know from their strategy, an important part of how they plan to acquire these large brands, these large businesses through partners and affiliates. So that relationship with partners is also embedded within the website content.